Hello humans, I am Very Lisa, and this is my Apocalypse Tower that I have created in The Sims 4. So I'm going to show you how I've built it and talk a little bit about the Apocalypse Challenge and why you might want to use this house instead of a house that you have already built for yourself. So the Apocalypse Challenge is created by Pinstar and Imagining Mystic, and you can find it on their website, which if you go to simslegacychallenge.com, and you can find all of their challenges there, including the Apocalypse Challenge, which is under the other Sims Challenges heading. And the idea is that everything has gone wrong in the town of Glassbolt, or in the city of Glassbolt, and you have been sent in to fix the problems. So actually, there's a devastation, there's some terrible nuclear power plant meltdown, the region has been devastated, there are zombies and you can't drink the water, and everything was experimental and strange, and you're not going to be happy. The people living there are not going to be happy. So to do the Apocalypse Challenge, what you normally do is you start off with Wonder Child. And a Wonder Child is is a different challenge of Pinstar and Imagining Mystics, where you raise a child to be the most wonderful child possible, as in with the most skills and abilities and aspirations and traits and all those things. And then you send them off to Glassbolt to rescue the town. And how you rescue the town of Glassbolt is there's all these crazy restrictions, things you can't do, like you have to build within an 8x8 lot. You can't use the whole lot. Everything has to be covered by 4 walls and a roof. You can only have the worst versions of items in the catalogue, because the manufacturing plants aren't capable of building good products. So I'll go through some of the restrictions in more detail as we look at it, but the idea is that in order to lift these restrictions, your household Sims have to get to the top level of a career. So say there's a restriction on whether you can build outside that 8x8 limitation. I believe there's, which one is it? I think it's the politics career. Let me see. Oh no, it's the criminal career. Is it criminal? Oracle? Anyway, there's a particular career that when you get to the top of that, you can then start to build outside that 8x8 area. And then every sim in your household is only able to lift one restriction. So your founder sim, your Wonder Child, usually can lift a single restriction, and then their spouse can lift a restriction, and their kids can lift a restriction. But once they lift that restriction, that's all that they can do. They can't lift any more restrictions for the household. So it's a generational challenge. It's like a legacy challenge, because you end up with multiple generations. I'm currently on my 3rd generation, and I've only lifted 1 restriction so far, which is driving me crazy. And I got to the point where I thought, you know what, if I could do this over again, what would be the perfect starter house that I would build? And I tell you, the restriction that has driven me the most crazy is there's a bodybuilder restriction. With the bodybuilder restriction, you cannot, once you've placed anything that's larger than 1 square, 1 by 1 tile, you can't move that thing. And so in my original house that I built, I put some ridiculous things in there. I put like monkey bars in the basement, and I accidentally, one of my Sims gave birth right next to the double bed, in between the double bed and the wall, so they couldn't use the bed anymore, and lots of irritating things. So after playing a lot of this Apocalypse Challenge, I'm like, okay, I'm going to build the perfect Apocalypse Challenge. Now, this particular house costs 140,000 simoleons, so it's not what you would call a starter home in The Sims, but it's a good one for starting the Apocalypse Challenge. And one of the crazy restrictions of the Apocalypse Challenge is that every Monday, after you've paid your bills, the local mob boss then takes all the rest of your money as protection money. So it doesn't really matter how much money you start with, because by the end of the first 24 hours you will have 0 simoleons. However, I don't know if this is truly in the spirit of it. Say you were playing a Wonder Child, and that Wonder Child had 140,000 simoleons at the time they aged up to young adult, then you could probably buy this house, and that would be fine. You could also build it yourself from scratch. I think that the original challenge says what you should do is get your Wonder Child, put them on an empty lot, any empty lot with whatever simoleons they've got, and then start from there. And so this is just giving you a little bit of a head start. It's not, I don't think it's breaking the rules, but if you wanted to play strictly by the rules of the challenge, then don't use this house. And also, if you want to play strictly by the rules of the challenge and you don't want any hints and tips of what I've learned, if you want to figure it all out for yourself, maybe don't watch the rest of this video. Stop now, stop now. But if you do want to know what I've learned, and I'm by no means an expert at this, but I have certainly had some pain in this challenge that I would not wish upon anybody else, then feel free to watch and pick up anything that might be useful to you and ignore anything that's not. So you're not allowed to build outside of this 8x8 square, but you can build down and up as long as nothing overhangs the 8x8 square. So we've got these two basement levels that are both 8x8, and in the first basement level there's a swimming pool, and that swimming pool actually also takes up space on the level below, so you can't build a swimming pool on the second, like the second bottom basement level, but you can build one on the first basement level, and then it goes down into the basement. And you don't strictly need a swimming pool for the Apocalypse Challenge, but I really like swimming, and I like seeing them swim up and down. And the concept that I'm thinking of with this particular build is that the city of Glassbolt knows the Wonder Child is coming, and so they've prepared in advance the best house that they can. They've built it. When you see when I'll do the finishes, it'll all be like stone and concrete and metal and stuff that's going to withstand the terrible, terrible conditions of the local environment. And oh gosh, am I doing this the wrong way around? I don't even know. Oh no, I think it's all right. It took me ages to work out how to get those light wells to go down to the basement because I am not an expert builder. Yeah, so these guys have built this perfect house for the Wonder Child, and they've been testing it out because they really want Wonder Child to get off to a flying start and help them to, or possibly, you know, this has been plopped in by a robot that's built the house on her behalf, and now she flies in to save the day. When you start off, you cannot have a fridge or a stove, or a barbecue or a cooler, or if you don't have outdoor retreats, you can use a grill. But I have outdoor retreats, so I've put the fire pit there. And I think the rules are with the fire pit that it has to go outside, but I'm not quite sure about that. I believe anything that has to go outside and that you have to have outside is exempt from the rules that everything has to be covered by 4 walls and a roof. But the only things you'll see in this build that are not covered by 4 walls and a roof are the fire pit, the outside rubbish bin, the letterbox, and on the roof there is actually a rocket ship, because at some point our Sims are going to learn rocket science, and they will need the rocket ship to help them do that. So I built my 4 levels above ground as well, and I decided each level will have one thing that it's that is the main thing that happens on that level. And I really started off by focusing on, well, where does everything go? How can I fit it all into this very limited space in the most efficient way possible? I do also muck around with windows because I wanted to get a lot of natural light in, and that's why I've got those light well. I've used valuable floor real estate in those light wells going down to the basement, because while the Sims probably don't really care whether it's natural light or artificial, I want them to have natural light. I want them to feel good about the natural light in their lives. So I made those light wells to get some natural light down there during the daytime. And I'm also thinking of that swimming pool. Oh, that's right, I was talking about that before. The swimming pool, I thought, could be like their water supply. So this is almost designed to be, everybody else might be suffering, but this is sort of an impenetrable bunker with the, industrial glass that can't be penetrated. So I got, instead of having those big single pane windows, I wanted to get some multi-pane windows with really strong looking frames, and it's got bulletproof glass in it, you can imagine. And there's some windows that are quite regular in how they're positioned and some that are fairly erratic. Um, and they get more erratic as it goes along, as I realise, I want these windows that cover 2 squares or 2 panels, but if I want a wall there, then it'll break the window, so whatever. Um, yeah, so I jump around between levels a lot as I remember things that I want to do, and I try out various different places. If you notice, there's stairs, doors and walls around all the staircases, like the central stairwell. That's because there's an odd thing in The Sims where if you have a staircase going up to the roof, and this is the very top level, like it's level 5, so you can't build a wall or a roof on top of that. That's the highest you can build. But because you can't have a roof over that stairwell, it acts like daylight, and then the daylight goes all the way down to the ground floor. So we didn't want to have the lighting engine getting confused about what's inside and what's outside. So I decided to treat pretty much the whole stairwell as though it was an outdoor room. And that's in part why we've got these metal staircases with the grills, and the staircase actually acts like a light well as well. And I ended up putting windows all around the staircases, so that the light, additional light that comes in through the staircases, gives some more natural light in for the Sims. And then I've got the doors that go into the stairwell, so there's the little landing areas and the doors. And I think that does actually end up taking a little more space than it would otherwise done if I hadn't used the walls. But if you're going to be playing the Apocalypse Challenge, then the truth is you're going to be playing it a long time, and if it's not pretty, if you don't like the way it looks, I don't know about you, but if I don't like the way it looks, I get chitty and I don't want to play anymore. So I thought I really do want to make this look nice, like a house that I could play in for a long time. I actually don't know if I'm going to restart my Apocalypse Challenge or just continue on with the one I've already got. But it was certainly felt like it was worth having another go at this one. So this ground floor is where most of the cooking will happen, and because cooking, you can't use mood boosters at the start, but you will want to use them eventually, and so I put the musical instruments and the easel down there, because eventually you'll be able to add inspired stuff. And then this second floor, the one immediately above the ground floor, I have made into a child raising area. And when the Apocalypse Challenge was originally written up for Sims 4 by Pinstar and Imagining Mystic, there were no toddlers in the game. And they have said that they're not going to update the challenge for any new expansions or game packs or stuff packs that come out. So I have made up my own rules about toddlers, because you can't have showers and baths at the start, right? So you can only wash your hands. And babies, they're fine. You can change their nappies and that's how they get clean. But toddlers, actually there's no way for them to get clean apart from adults giving them a bath. So you have to have a room with a bath in it. But you don't want anyone else to use the bath until they've lifted the restriction that prevents them from using baths. So my solution that I've come up with is I've made a little 4x4 room that is just for the bath, and it's got a lockable door so that when your household has a toddler in it, you can unlock that door and let them go give the toddler a bath. But as soon as the toddler's had their bath, you lock that door again, and the adults don't go back in there until the next time it's time to give a toddler a bath. And if there's no toddler in the household, then that door just stays locked. No toddler. I took a fair while to work out where to put all the beds here. The reason why we've got 3 bassinets there is that it's possible to have triplets. It's not very likely, but certainly my sim had twins in her first generation, and if you do not already have a bassinet placed, the baby will be born wherever the sim happens to be standing at the time. And of course mine was standing in between the bed and the wall. The bassinet appeared there and I couldn't move it, and I still can't move it, and it drives me crazy. So I thought, right, I am in my ideal house, I will put 3 bassinets, and then if by some bizarre chance my sim actually has 3 babies, they can all have their own little bassinet. And then we have, I went back and forth between 3 and 4 toddler beds, and I ended up thinking, no, the toddlers don't have to be in the bed all the time, and they can sleep on the floor. So just in case, you're going crazy having lots of babies, and you want to age them all up at once, so you have more than 3 toddlers, Some of them will just have to sleep on the floor, and they'll pass out, they'll sleep anywhere. They won't be happy about it. If you neglect your toddlers, they might get taken away by protective services, but as long as you keep them relatively clean and fed, then they probably won't get taken away. Oh, I just realised I forgot to put a high chair in, but toddlers don't have to have high chairs to eat in, but I don't think they'll sit on the bar stools, and I haven't put any couches or regular chairs in the kitchen area. I've only got the counters and the bar stools, so I don't know where the toddlers are going to eat. They could just eat on the floor, or if you decide to download this house and give it a try, you might want to find a place to stick a toddler, what do you call it, a high chair, and maybe a couch downstairs. I don't know. And basically, once you lift the cooking restriction, you won't need that fire pit outside anymore. So what I would suggest at that point, after you've lifted the cooking restriction, get rid of the fire pit. You have to put it in the inventory usually, because unless you've lifted the restriction that lets you sell things. But yeah, put your fire pit in the inventory, and then make a little bit more space on the ground floor, and then redo your kitchen so you've got your stove and fridge and everything else in there. And at that point, you could probably also put in a high chair or a couch or somewhere for the toddlers to sit to have their meals. Okay, so where am I? I'm back on the computer level at this point. Working. So this is where I think when you eventually have logic or focused mood items, when you're allowed to use mood items, because you can't use them at first, but when you can, you'll want all your logic stuff together or your focus stuff together. So I have a chess table there and all the desks. And I thought at first, when I played my Apocalypse Challenge, that yes, of course, one computer would be enough. I mean, they're not supposed to use them for anything fun. They're only supposed to use them for their jobs. But then almost every job, well, no, maybe not almost every, but maybe half the jobs require you to use a computer for something. So I thought, what the hell? Kids and teenagers need to do homework, and the grown-ups need computers for their jobs. So I've put in 8 seating spots. So 4 tables with 2 chairs at each one, and a computer on each one. Gee, I'm jumping a lot around between levels at the moment. This very top level, I'm thinking, is the party and entertainment level. So this is where the bar is. They actually can't drink those bar drinks to start with, but they can use the bar to practice their mixology skill. And eventually they'll be able to have the drinks. But to start with, if they make a drink, they have to throw it away. Yeah, I'm thinking about this kitchen and going, where is the toddler going to sit? You could probably put a couch somewhere. I don't know. Yeah, so every level also has a toilet and at least 1 sink, and often 2 sinks. Because what I discovered is everything has to be the cheapest and the worst, which means it breaks, and your Sims can't replace it or call in a repair person or upgrade it to prevent it from breaking. And they have to use the sinks so much because they don't have a shower, so they're going to be constantly washing their hands in the sinks. So a lot of the time, you want them to wash their hands, and there's no sink available, so they have to go down the stairs or up the stairs, or the sink's broken or someone else is using it. So I've put 1 or 2, at least 1 sink and often 2 sinks on every level. So if when some of them break, you can use the other ones, and you can have a Sim, perhaps a Sim after a particular Sim has got to the top of their career and they can stay home and do what they like, then they can be in charge of repairing all the sinks until you finally lift the restriction that requires you to not use showers. So, and I also discovered at first when I built my house, I put sinks and toilets in the same room, and then I realized that there's actually no reason to put a sink in a private room because they're only washing their hands, they're not having a shower, so they can go outside. So that saves you a little bit of that floor plan space. They can wash their hands as many times as they like while they're not in the toilet, and they just have to go in the toilet for private time. And my thinking is when you eventually lift the restriction on showers and baths, some of the space that's currently taken up by sinks, you could replace that space with a shower or a bath. There's already a bath on the toddler and kid level, so you would then look at, well, what are the other levels where I could put a shower. And some of the bathrooms with like toilets in them are fairly large, so they've got enough space, well, large-ish comparatively speaking, for such a small, like cramped house. So the larger ones you can put a shower in, maybe next to where the toilet is, or get rid of the sink and put a shower there instead, because you don't really need the sink so much on every level after a while. So what am I doing now? Putting in lighting. Oh yeah, at this point I decided that the walls were all going to be stone on the outside, and then on the inside they would be like partition walls. So the external walls are the really sort of strong reinforced stone, and I've left them looking natural, as though they've just dug in and they've reinforced everything, and then on the inside they've built the partition walls out of something that's a little bit lighter but still very strong and not susceptible to the terrible effects of radiation or whatever else is going on. So that protects your humans. I think at this point I got the layout I was pretty comfortable with, so I'm starting to decorate. And I felt like there wasn't much point decorating until I worked out where everything was going to fit, because I'd just have to redecorate when I figured out where stuff was going. So this ground floor I feel like is possibly the worst laid out at the moment, but also, as you're playing the game, you really will want to lift that culinary restriction pretty quickly. Most people, you can play it however you like, but most people who play Apocalypse Challenge want to lift the culinary restriction pretty soon, because you will get sick of catching fresh fish and roasting them over the fire pit, or rummaging for wild plants and eating them raw. And actually the lot that I've chosen is in Willow Creek, and I tried a bunch of different lots to see which one might be the best for the challenge. And if you want to figure this out for yourself, don't, this is a spoiler, but basically in Willow Creek, where the Goths live, there's a lot where I've built this house, and that particular area there is a park with a jungle gyms for your kids, because they often will, you can't put a jungle gym on your lot because everything has to be in this 8x8 space, but they can walk to the jungle gym without having to leave, so they can play on that. There's fishing spots, which you need, and there's actually a community garden very close by where you can get pears and apples and strawberries, so your Sims won't have any trouble finding wild plants to eat. The kids will be able to go to the park, and you can catch plenty of fish. The only drawback with Willow Creek and this lovely little lot is it doesn't feel very apocalyptic, so you're going to have to use your imagination to think, well, it looks fine, but it's actually contaminated with heaps of radiation, and it's not safe, and people are walking around, actually a lot of them are zombies. So don't get too comfortable, but it does still look very pretty and nice. Also, the flooring that I've used in most of the levels, apart from the very bottom one where I've used flagstones like it's, the base level, but the rest of them I've used this sort of poured concrete with expansion seams type of look, and then I've put rugs over it. Because again, I'm thinking, well, they're going for something massively strong and resistant to, maybe there's earthquakes because the ground's moving around, and they're not really focused on making it look beautiful. That's up to the Wonder Child and his or her descendants after they've moved in. They focused on making something very functional and useful for the Wonder Child to get the hang of. And if you're wondering why there are so many shelves, there are two reasons. One is, until you've lifted the bodybuilder restriction, you cannot carry more than one stack of items at a time. So say you go to the community garden and you find yourself 20 strawberries, and then you want to pick some pears. Well, you can't, because you can only carry one stack of items at a time. But if you go to the house, or even open up the house from wherever you are, you can drag the items from your inventory onto the shelves, and so you can put, I think, 5 or 6 pieces of fruit on a single shelf, and you will find yourself filling up those shelves, especially because I think the kids and the toddlers can't actually pick the fruit themselves, and they can't go fishing, and they can't roast the fish. But if you can put lots of fruit on those shelves, then the kids to some extent can help themselves to fruit when they need it. And the other reason why you want a lot of shelves is because those toilets and sinks are going to break all the time, and you'll be repairing them all the time, and your Sims will end up with plumbing parts and upgrade parts in their inventories. And you can't, if you put them in the household inventory, you have to slow down to go into the household inventory. It's a pain in the whatever. But it's also, if I believe there's a bug where if you have a stack of over 99 items in inventory, it's either really slow or it can crash. So I've found with my upgrade parts that I just drag them onto the shelves. And so when we eventually lift that restriction that lets us upgrade stuff, we are going to be having so many upgrade parts ready to go. And you can't sell stuff either because there's a restriction that prevents you from selling your upgrade parts and your fruit and all of that sort of stuff. So you've got to find somewhere to put them that's not your Sims inventory. It could be household inventory, but that's risky. So this is why there's all these shelves. The only ones that I haven't found an efficient way to store are the plumbing upgrade parts. They don't fit on the shelves, so you may want to put those in your household inventory, but the common upgrade parts and the electronics upgrade parts do fit on the shelves, as do things like cow plant berries and little sculptures. And I haven't made haven't put a woodwork bench in there, but you probably don't need one to start with. You can get one if you want to upgrade your handiness skill and all that sort of stuff, but you can't sell anything that you make until you've lifted that restriction that prevents you from selling things. So the woodworking bench is probably not that vital in the scheme of this one. So yeah, I'm finding rugs and layering them. So the idea would be they've got this poured concrete floor and it's not terrifically comfortable, but it needs to be there for the structural integrity of the house so that it doesn't collapse with all the earthquakes and disasters and zombie attacks and things. So the layered rugs are there to keep the sound at an acceptable level and to make it look nice. And in the kitchen area, I couldn't quite decide how I wanted to do that. You can't actually use move objects, by the way, either, so I have not used move objects at all in building this house. I've used the Alt key to finely nudge things, but I have not used move objects to overlap things. So in the kitchen area, I've used these runners, and I'm imagining that they're the kind that you get for IKEA that you can hose down if they get dirty or chuck in the washing machine, which we don't have a washing machine in The Sims, but we will eventually, I'm sure. So yeah, there's a bit more tile showing there, or a bit more of the polished concrete floor because whoops, I ran out of storage space with my computer. No, I haven't. Don't believe it. Yeah, so I'm putting lots of rugs in the toddler area, but again, they'll make terrible messes, the toddlers, so they need to be easy to pick up and clean underneath. And yeah, I wanted all the beds to look slightly different so that everybody can claim their bed at some point and it feels like their bed, because if they have to stay in this house and they can't really leave the lot or the area until there's a particular restriction lifted that stops them going places. They really are going to be spending a lot of time here, so they want to feel comfortable, like this is their little spot, even if they have to share the room with all of their siblings or brothers and sisters or dad's new girlfriend or whoever it is might have been that just moved in. And why have I devoted a whole floor to raising kids? And I made it a fairly low down floor too. I guess toddlers can't move that fast. It takes them a long time to go up and down the stairs, so I didn't want them to be at the very lowest or at the very top level, and I also wanted them to have some sunlight. I didn't really like the idea of raising toddlers in the basement. That just felt really creepy, so they were on the level immediately above the ground floor. And even though they have the same sort of concrete floors and walls and stone walls as everyone else, it's a bit more colourful and cheerful, and it's got those cloud-shaped fluffy lamps. Yeah, so I'm just making the focus or the studying area look a bit nicer. There's also a yoga mat up then that... No, the yoga mat's up in the part... I can't even remember where to put the yoga mat, but whatever. Let me think. Oh, yeah, I had this idea that because there are so many stairs and they're going to be constantly going up and down the stairs, if every bit of the stairwell looked the same, you might if you're not paying attention, sort of lose track of where you are. So I tried to put a little decal or a poster or something on the walls at each level to give you some hint as to what level you're on. But I couldn't find anything that really fit that well for some of the levels. So in the end, I just thought as long as each level looks a little bit unique or different, then that'll be fine. And that top level staircase is not goes around in sort of an L shape because the rocket ship is, I think, 5x5. So you have to make sure that it has enough space. So it couldn't have that staircase right in the middle. Otherwise it would not work. What have I got? Sort of a sciencey poster for the study area. I'm trying to find things to put on the walls so they don't look quite so bleak and concretey. But what you will probably find is that some of your Sims have to get their creativity up, or they have to do painting for some reason, and so you probably have Sims who like to paint, and so you'll end up putting their paintings all over the wall unless you want to put them in the inventory, because you can't sell them. So you have to do something with them, and putting them on the wall is a nice idea. Now in this party room I have put a dartboard, but I had terrible trouble getting the dartboard to work in my last game, and I can't get it to work in this game either. So you may want to either delete it if you download this house, or just move it around or try to find somewhere else. The dartboard's really only there for fun. There's no particular skill or reason they need to have it. But they do tend to, because all of the items are the worst possible quality and they can't have a TV yet. They'll probably add a TV in on this level or the party level when that restriction gets lifted. But because they can't have a TV and they can't use the computer for fun or the phone for fun, and they can't do any outdoor activities for fun, it's hard to keep their fun levels high. So on that party level I wanted to give them a few options. So they had the Don't Wake the Llama and the foosball table and the dartboard, but I can't get them to play a group game of darts. They'll play like a single player game, so one person can play on their own, but they can't seem to play as a group. So I don't know why. If you can figure it out, leave me a comment, let me know, or leave me a comment with anything that you might do differently about this, or if you've done the Apocalypse Challenge, what frustrated you the most, and how did you get around the problems of the challenge? Did you upload a house to the gallery? I'd love to see it. And of course, if you use this house, if you download this house and have a go, I'd love to know. So you can find it on the gallery. My username is VeryLisa, and I use the hashtag VeryLisa as well, so it's easy to find me by hashtag or user ID. And on this one I've tagged it with Apocalypse Challenge and Apocalypse and Challenge, so you can find it with any of those tags. I decided I wanted to make the pool look really nice and special, because if they can't go anywhere else, then they will need to have a place where they feel like they're in a sort of a luxurious surrounding. And maybe my idea of luxury is not the same as everybody else's idea of luxury, but I like what I ended up with. And I decided this pool doubles as sort of like a water filtration, so it's a living pool. It's not just a sterile body of water that's cleaned with chemicals. They actually they're not allowed to drink water out of the taps until they lift that restriction, but they can use the swimming pool. There's no particular restriction against that. So they've got all these plants here filtering the water. They've got a big pipe. I think it's a bit like something out of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, where it sucks up the chocolate, or clears the water, and the plants filter the water, and there's a big fan that cleans the air and everything. So it felt a little bit kind of cyberpunky and modern and cool and weird, and that's the sort of thing that I like. And now I'm trying to get all the individual single beds to look a bit nicer. So eventually, when you lift the restriction on having the crappiest version of every item, you'll be able to replace these with good quality beds. But for now, these are all the cheapest, nastiest, most uncomfortable beds, so your Sims will get tired and they won't gain their energy back very quickly. I have enough space for 8 adult, teen or child or elder Sims to sleep. Plus you've got your space for your 3 toddlers and your 3 babies. So you will never have that many in the house at once, but you could have any combination of that. So it's designed to be able to be usable if you've got 8 Sims who are all adults, or you've got up to 3 toddlers and or up to 3 babies in the house at once. But only one couple of Sims get to sleep in the double bed. All the others have to have singles. So it sounds gross, but there's like one breeding pair. Those are your Sims who are allowed to have babies, and they can woohoo in that double bed. I think the only other place on the lot they can woohoo is the rocket ship after they have finished building it. In my Apocalypse Challenge, they had to build the rocket ship really early because I managed to block off the bed so that they couldn't woohoo anymore. So, yeah. I put up a curtain there. They can't actually have wardrobes. I know I keep listing all these restrictions, and you think, how many more restrictions can there be? And the answer is there's lots that I haven't even talked about yet. It's quite hard to keep them all straight. But so if you do decide to do the challenge, do not base it on just listening to me ramble on, because there's so much more to it. But I put those curtains up. They can't have wardrobes at the moment, but having the curtains there kind of implies, to me it sort of hinted that maybe there's some storage behind the curtains that you can't really see, which of course there isn't. And eventually when they get wardrobes, they would have to replace something else in the spot with the wardrobes. And there's a couple of places where there's like end tables or whatever that you could probably put like a 2 square wardrobe in, or a chest of drawers or something like that, and then put stuff on top of it. What am I doing now? I'm making the gym look a little bit more cheerful. I ended up, as I started like zooming around and thinking of taking screenshots, I realised that there were just a lot of blank spaces of stone and concrete that I hadn't quite decorated as much as I would like to. I have put some things there, but I haven't gone crazy. As I said before, your sim, most of the time your Sims, if you've got anybody doing any sort of artistic endeavours, they'll be painting stuff on the easel, so you can put those paintings on the easel. You can't put anything on that has a mood aura. Okay, so now we're going into the screenshots in a moment. At least I think we are. Yeah, here we are. So here's the outside again. And I have actually put some things on the outside of the house which overhang that 8x8 square, but they're only decorative. They're not actually doing anything apart from looking pretty. So I really like to shade my windows. You can see this location in Willow Creek. There's a pool behind it. Behind where the camera is at the moment, there's actually a park, and the community garden is over to the left of this picture here. So as you come in the house, there's some shelves, and if you download from the gallery, you might find that I've already put some pears and apples and things there. Here's the long bench in the kitchen where your Sims would sit to eat. I don't have a dining table where they would all sit around together at the moment. I don't know if you might be able to put that in at some point, but I don't mind them sitting at the bench. That's fine. I reckon they're not holding dinner parties just yet. You've got 2 sinks downstairs. They use it a lot. Here is one view of the hallway with the metal grating. You don't need a lot of that. So let's down here in the basement. This is the gym with a sink. They're going to be washing their hands. There's actually 2 sinks here because they'll be washing their hands a lot, and a view into that swimming pool, and with a big extractor fan. This is the view that they'll get as they're swimming up and down. Maybe it's not that pretty, but I liked it. And the plants filtering all the water, and the big pipe down the end. And I've tried to put little hand towels and things everywhere. I haven't shown you all the toilets. Here's one of the bedrooms with the single beds. This has got 3 beds in it, and they're all a little bit different paintings and feelings. This is the grown-ups bedroom, the adults that actually get to woohoo. This is their room, and you'll probably put a wardrobe in there at some point if you get one. Here's another room just with 3 single beds, and this one's less exciting than the other one, but there's a space in there. All the rooms with single beds and kids' beds have also got the anti-monster nightlight. So if you like having monsters under the bed, you might want to turn those anti-monster night lights off, but I don't really like the monsters under the bed. They frustrate me. Here's the nursery with the 3 bassinets in case of triplets, and some more shelves everywhere. I haven't got anything on those ones. Here's the toddler's playroom, and the kids can play up here as well with their They can make the potions using that chemistry table, but nobody's allowed to drink them until they lift the restriction on drinking potions. And then round the corner from the toddler's room. Oh, this is the toddler's bathroom as well. So it's got a potty in there. You might actually want to move that potty out. I'm not too sure. But that bathroom gets locked when there's no toddlers in the household, or when no toddlers need a bath right now. Oh, she's doing her little dance because she needs to go to the toilet, but I don't know why she's going there. So here we are on the focus room. There's currently a little yoga stool, the meditation stool there, a place for reading, a chess table, and then the sort of study area with the 4 desks, or the 4 tables with 2 chairs at each, and 4 computers. So there are computers for everybody. And they cannot play video games to start with. Oh, that poster's clipping through the curtain. But they might eventually. On the top party level, there is a yoga mat. Why they do yoga and party, I don't know, but that's my Sims. They are yoga partiers. Their foosball table and the dartboard. There's also a fire alarm system, just so that if they do set fire to the house, then it'll go off automatically. And these pink lampshades, I thought, made it more of a party level. I don't know. Anyway, when you finally get your TV, you might want to put it up here. And then finally, we have the rocket ship launching pad, so they can start there. And here I have my test sim doing some fishing, cooking that fish over the fire pit. Your Sims will be doing a lot of this as you first start this challenge, and eating the delicious fishes. So I hope you enjoyed this build. Of course, washing your hands. My goodness, you will wash your hands so many times. You will be so happy when you finally lift that restriction and no longer have to wash your hands in the sink. Here's one last shot of the house. So thanks for watching, guys. Like the video, subscribe to my channel. See you guys later.